So Google Maps versus Waze, huh? Seems like everyone's always trying to figure out which one's the best.
Yeah, it's a question that pops up all the time. But it's not as simple as just saying one's better than the other.
Right, because it really depends on what you're looking for in a navigation app, what your priorities are.
Exactly. You know, I was looking at your notes and I saw you mentioned needing an app for cycling.
Oh yeah, that's a big one for me. I'm trying to ditch the car as much as possible.
Well, right off the bat, that highlights a key difference between Google Maps and Waze. Google Maps is a multimodal champ. It's got walking, cycling, public transit, the whole shebang.
And Waze?
Waze is all about driving. Getting you from point A to point B in your car as quickly as possible. That's their bread and butter.
Ah, that makes sense, considering their reputation for real-time traffic updates. I've heard people get really into Waze's community features, like reporting accidents and speed traps. Is it really that engaging?
Oh, absolutely. The community aspect is a huge part of what makes Waze tick. Those points and avatars they use. They actually incentivize users to report issues, making their traffic data arguably more reliable.
More reliable than Google Maps?
Potentially. Yes, Google Maps relies more on historical data and algorithms. Waze, on the other hand, has its users constantly feeding in real-time updates.
So it's like a network of drivers all working together to outsmart traffic.
Precisely. Think of it as a collective effort to avoid those dreaded red lines on the map.
But doesn't that also open them up to pranks or misinformation? If anyone can report anything, couldn't someone just mess with the system?
It's a possibility, for sure. But Waze has algorithms and user moderation to filter out bogus reports. It's a trade-off, really. More up-to-the-minute accuracy, but with a slightly higher risk of the occasional error.
Interesting trade-off. Speaking of accuracy, I have to tell you about this one time I was using Google Maps to find this tiny little bookstore.
Oh, yeah? What happened?
It was tucked away in this back alley like a hidden gem. I would never found it without the app's detailed mapping. It was like a digital treasure hunt.
That's Google Maps for you. They pride themselves on having the most comprehensive and detailed maps out there. They want to be your guide to the entire world, not just the roads.
Which is why their offline mode is such a lifesaver, especially for someone like me who loves to venture off the grid.
You know, now that you mention it, it feels like there's a real philosophical difference between Google Maps and Waze.
Oh, absolutely. Google Maps wants to be your comprehensive guide to the world, no matter how you're traveling. Waze, on the other hand, is hyper-focused on optimizing your drive, getting you there as fast as possible.
It's like Google Maps is a detailed atlas, and Waze is a dynamic traffic dodging tool.
That's a great analogy. And that difference is apparent even in how they utilize something like Street View Google's is fantastic for pre-trip scouting, really getting a feel for your destination Waze. Not so much.
They're just not interested in that kind of visual depth, are they? Nope. Their focus is on real-time navigation, pure and simple. So that brings us back to the question of which app is right for you. It's not about which one is better overall, but which one aligns best with your priorities.
So for someone who cycles a lot, needs offline access, and loves exploring off the beaten path, Google Maps seems like the way to go.
It's looking that way, yeah. But hold on a second. We haven't even touched on how Waze could potentially revolutionize your daily commute.
Okay, now you've got me intrigued. How could Waze make such a difference?
You mentioned your commute can be a bit of a wild card, right?
Oh, tell me about it. Some days it's a breeze, other days I'm stuck in traffic for what feels like forever.
And that's where Waze really shines. Those real-time, community-driven updates I was talking about, they can be a game changer when it comes to avoiding traffic.
Okay, I'm listening.
Imagine this. You're on your usual route to work, and suddenly Waze pops up with an alert. There's been an accident ahead.
Oh, no.
But before you even have time to stress, Waze is already rerouting you, taking you through side streets you never even knew existed.
And just like that, I'm bypassing all the traffic.
Potentially, yes. Of course, no system is perfect, but Waze's ability to adapt to real-time conditions is pretty impressive.
It reminds me of this one time I was heading to a friend's house for dinner, and Waze totally saved me from a massive traffic jam, rerouted me through all these back roads. I was so grateful.
See? That's Waze in action. It's like having a whole army of drivers out there looking out for each other, reporting accidents, speed traps, you name it.
So the more people use it, the better it gets.
Exactly. The more users, the more data, the more accurate and effective the traffic avoidance becomes.
Like a snowball effect.
You got it. It's a classic example of the network effect in action. But even with all that real-time data, Waze isn't going to be perfect 100% of the time, right?
Right. There are always going to be those unforeseen delays or sudden surges in traffic that no app can predict.
That's true. But even in those situations, WAZE is constantly recalculating, rerouting, trying to minimize the impact of those unexpected events.
So it's all about adapting on the fly.
That's the name of the game. So, when it comes to optimizing that unpredictable daily commute of yours, WAZE might actually have a leg up on Google Maps, even without all the bells and whistles for cyclists.
It's funny how the conversation has shifted. At first, Google Maps seemed like the clear winner. But now WAZE is making a pretty compelling case.
And that's the beauty of it. There isn't one best navigation app. It all depends on your individual needs and priorities.
So for our listener out there, it's not just about looking at a list of features, but really thinking about how those features align with their lifestyle, their driving habits, all of that.
Precisely. It's about choosing the right tool for the job. You wouldn't use a hammer to tighten a screw, right?
Perfect analogy.
Mm.
And in this case, the job is navigating your world efficiently and effectively. Sometimes that might even mean having both Google Maps and WAZE on your phone.
Absolutely. Why limit yourself? You could use Google Maps for its detailed maps and offline functionality when you're exploring new places, and then switch to WAZE when you're battling traffic on your daily commute.
Best of both worlds.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe in the future, these apps will continue to evolve and merge some of their functionalities.
It's exciting to think about how technology might change the way we navigate. Just imagine, with the rise of AI and self-driving cars, things could look completely different in a few years.
Now you're talking. The world of navigation is constantly evolving.
In a world where cars can drive themselves, would we even need navigation apps as we know them? Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? Like, if my car can drive itself, do I even need to tell it where to go?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right? At first glance, you'd think navigation apps would become obsolete. I mean, if your car can handle the driving, why bother with turn-by-turn directions?
But you were saying earlier how technology often creates new needs as it eliminates old ones.
Right. Like, think about it. What if, instead of just getting you from point A to point B, these apps evolve to actually curate your journey?
Curate? You mean like suggesting interesting places to stop along the way?
Right. Exactly. Like, picture this. You're on your way to work, right? And the app knows you're a history buff. So it suggests a quick detour to a historical landmark you've never seen before.
Oh, I like that. Or maybe it knows I'm a coffee addict. It recommends a cool little cafe on my route.
Exactly. Navigation apps could become these personalized travel guides, enhancing your trip beyond just the A to B route.
So instead of just giving directions, they'd offer suggestions and experiences tailored to our interests.
Right. They could tap into your calendar, your social media, all sorts of data to create these seamless, personalized trips. Imagine your car knows you have a dinner reservation and suggests stopping for a drink at a spot with a great view beforehand.
Wow, now that's a future I can get behind. It's funny because it sounds like navigation apps might actually become even more important.
Yeah, even as driving itself undergoes this radical transformation. It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
It really is. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? Explored the strengths and weaknesses of both Google Maps and WAZE, talked about their impact on the daily commute, and even taken a peek into the future of navigation.
And along the way, we've seen how each app has its own philosophy, its own way of approaching navigation, and how those approaches might evolve as technology continues to advance.
So it seems like for you, with your need for cycling directions, offline access, and love of exploring new places, Google Maps is a strong contender. But if traffic's a major headache for you, WAZE and its real-time updates could be a game changer.
At the end of the day, the best app is the one that best fits your individual needs and preferences.
Absolutely. And who knows what amazing new features and possibilities are just around the corner.
The journey's far from over. Keep exploring, experimenting, and most importantly, enjoy the ride.
That's great advice. Until next time, happy navigating.